So, okay. So this is the best four versions of Windows because it's hard to say which one is the best. Different people have different opinions. Some people think Windows 7 is the best. Some people think Windows XP is the best. But I would give some reasons for that, and it's also very hard to say which one is this number four, because Windows 98, Windows 95, and Windows 2000, they're all pretty successful, right? So it's not like four worst. We know is what the answer is for the four worst, right? It's just always be Windows 11, 10, me, Vista 8, right? Just everyone knows that. But what about for best? So the first, so it's hard to say which one is number four. Number four, what I give is Windows 95. So the reason I think Windows 95 is the best the best operating Windows, right? It's because Windows 95 is the foundation of Windows. So I would like to show you here. I have the VirtualBox. I want to show you the Windows 95. I guess a lot of you never tried that, so let's just see Windows 95. Okay, and maybe it's not able to successfully put that. Now, with Microsoft Plus, right? We have the media package here with Windows 95. So Windows 95. This is Windows 95. So Windows 95. Okay, here's Windows 95. So most of today's design, what we have in Windows 10, for example, they come from Windows 95. Right? You have programs is here, and you have Windows 10 is here. So most of the UI designs in Windows 10 today, and Windows XP and whatever, they come from Windows 95. When they try to change something from Windows 95, they failed, like Windows 8 is doing, right? So Windows 95 is the foundation of modern Windows. It has a massive success, and it defines how Windows should work, right? You have the start menu, you have arrange here, you have privilege, sharing, file sharing, privilege, hide, whatever. And you have the Win32 API. You can even still running. It's even possible to run Windows 95 programs today with GTC. You can still run Windows 95 programs, modern with C++ 23, running C++ 23 on Windows 95. It's still possible to do that. And that's why I'm installing it, because I need Windows 95 to test things. And Windows 95, it was very important. It's a foundation of Windows. Before Windows 95, people don't even know how to use computer, right? But Windows 95 defines how a desktop operating system should be. So Windows 95 defines the foundation of Windows. It defines Windows 32 APIs. You have start menus, have the control bars, whatever. All of today's design, which makes sense, comes from Windows 95. And it uses very little resources from today's perspective. Maybe they are using a lot from in the 1995. But from today's perspective, they use very little resources. Right? I'm still running it, and it's quite good. It's still a good operating system. If you don't have any operating system, it's still very good. You have the space cut, some 3D pinball on Windows 95. So I'm going to shut it down. Sorry. There were criticism with Windows 95. It's because it is too successful. It was too successful. Basically, it makes Microsoft becomes a monopoly, right? They basically monopolize the entire PC market share. you cannot really get rid of Windows nowadays. Some people just ask me in the for worse version. If you look at the comment section, the chat section, there's chat, right? Yeah. So Windows 95, the operating system was too successful to the point that it's hard for other operating systems to even do anything, right? You're running Linux. Linux is of course important, but you still have to run a lot of Windows applications, right? Many applications are still running on Windows. It's easy to use those applications, Windows applications. They have the installation is very simple. You just click the installation, you get installed your software. You don't need to say, hey, I'm going to deal with the ABI, this one. And even today, if you're running on Wine, if you run on a lot of Linux programs are just creating Windows programs with Wine, and running with Wine, because that deal with the ABI issues with Linux. Right? Linux, you have a lot of ABI issues, but with the foundation from Windows, you can make your programs much portable, even on Wine. So Windows 95, I think, is the foundation of Windows, and we should remember that. And I think that's why I give it a 4th point. Third point is Windows is number 3 is Windows 7. I know a lot of people think Windows 7 is the best, but it's 7. But in my opinion, it's just a fixed version of Windows Vista. It just was Windows Vista getting somewhat fixed. That's my thoughts on that operating system. But it was very successful because it plays a role for what it should. It plays a role as a successor of Windows XP for 64-bit machine. Despite it's just a fixed version, it's still very successful. It doesn't as annoying as Windows Vista, and Vista has a very bad reputation. But that does not happen for 7. So 7 is very successful. Even today, you can still run Chromium on 7. Microsoft Edge is still supporting 7. So 7 is a good operating system, but I think it's not the most important one. That's my thought. Good Windows. You're saying me, right? Running compile Linux programs on Windows. This is literally GNU Windows, right? Just literally GNU Windows, if you want to say it's GNU Windows. So let's just shut it down. So Windows, that's why it's not annoying, but I think it's also a very boring operating system. Windows 7 is very boring, and I think that's a problem. Plus upgrading, if I remember correctly, Windows Update was not as good as XP back in Windows 7 period. So Windows 7 just plays a role as a 64-bit machine, but I don't think it has a defined role for Windows. It's not that important. Although it's very important, but it's not the most important one. That's my fault on Windows 7. It doesn't have the privacy issues, and since it's a fixed version, it doesn't add a lot of features. It doesn't have as much criticism as other operating system has, I think. So that's why it's not good, it's not bad, but I'm just seeing the best one. No, it's not the best one, I think. I don't know whether you agree with it or not. Okay. So number two I give is Windows XP. So Windows XP is, right, I think you can argue that another one that you can say is the best operating system. Right? It's the first consumer-based NT operating system, and people just running on NT with Windows XP. The UI was wonderful with XP. XP, the UI, we can run with XP. I still have XP here, I have XP here. Okay, we can run it and see what XP is, because someday you have to run it to see the operating system, to see the operating system, because we human usually just remember the things that's good, but forget everything that's bad about XP. So XP is here, right? You can see here's the X64-bit version, which is another issue. it's as not as good with 64-bit support. But for me, the Windows, yeah, the UI is good. So you have this Zoom theme. This is not the Luna theme. It's a Zoom theme, right? The XP theme is the X theme, right? We can just go back and see what the XP theme is. The XP theme. Yeah. What is that? What? Wind. Why? This one, right? Everyone knows it, right? Yep. XP, right? They also have Windows Classic. They still allow you to use Windows Classic. If your operating system doesn't have enough resources, you can run Windows Classic. They give you 40 options here, right? You can even run the Classic start menu. It makes it look like a old Windows 98 or Windows 95 Windows. So this is Windows XP, right? Yeah, Windows XP, you can run GCC today. You can just directly run GCC on Windows XP today. Oh, blue screen of death. Sorry, it's that. So Windows Media Center, right? Windows XP has a Windows Media Center version, which is a very good feature, but it's not enabled by default, and that's the case. Okay, let's use to see the starting. It's XP. No Zoom theme anymore. We can only switch to Windows XP theme. Okay, let's just go back to Windows XP theme, despite I don't like it anymore. But yeah, but if you look at, if you watch it as Windows 90 in that period, it was looking quite good, right? You have the olive screen, you have the silver. Yeah, just remember of the old feeling of XP, right? So compared to Windows 95, it's a big boost, right? It's a big boost from UI. So Windows XP is extremely important, and Microsoft still release sometimes release security patches to XP. So, but there were criticism to XP, and they have more criticism than 7. Now, the first problem is activation system was really bad by XP, right? If you remember correctly. Windows 10 source code was leaked. Trust me, they all leaked. So activation system was really, really bad in XP. To the point I can only install this VM version. I can no longer upgrade Windows 11. Windows XP. Okay, not Windows 11. Windows XP. I just cannot upgrade it. Okay, because the activated because the activation system was terrible, right? It's like suicide. It's just like suicide. You can't get suicide anytime soon in XP, right? Because they can, if you don't activate Windows XP, they block your operating system. They don't allow you to use it anymore. So that later changed in later version of Windows. You can still use it, but it'll give you a landmark or something like that, watermark, something like that. So the activation system was criticized a lot in XP, and it's probably the worst problem in XP, right? They have the dramas here. Some people are saying, I just refuse to activate it. You can give me a black screen, whatever. I would like to accept it. I'm not going to buy the license. the pirate issues XP was quite ridiculous that period, right? So the activation system was really bad in XP. The update system. No, we usually criticize Windows Update nowadays, but actually the criticism was back in XP. The XP, you can see if you go back to XP, you see the Windows Update. I think Windows Update should be here. Yeah. They basically like what today's 10 is doing. It's automatic. It's just by default, just automatically upgrade your operating system. So you can get anytime upgrade, and they will by default upgrade your operating system. But they just so this upgrade crap, the first upgrade crap was coming from XP. Basically from XP, they started to force you to upgrade. Back in Windows 98, you have Windows Update, but they never force you for doing anything. But since XP, they start to force you. Of course, it's not as forced as Windows 10 is doing, but it was criticized a lot even back in that period, right? So the Windows update system wasn't good, and it was if you want to just you can just install Windows Service Pack, right? You just install Service Pack, you install a bunch of updates. But if you're not doing that, you just manually update every package, every patch. It just add a bunch of garbage to your system, and the operating system becomes slower and slower because of the patches. The more patches you have on XP, the slower the machine is. This is what people just shut it off because it slows down their machine, the performance of their machine. So it was a huge issue. Now, third is no DOS, right? We know it's based on NT kernel, and Microsoft removed DOS. A lot of DOS fanboys was not happy with it, right? So, but that's it. There's no DOS. There was no DOS, right? There's no DOS in XP. Also, no real mode. Okay. No real mode. No real mode. Okay. Some people would argue that XP has no real mode. It's no longer their machine, right? Because real mode, they can do a lot to their hardware. But on XP, you don't have real mode. Therefore, you cannot do anything to the hardware in the XP because there's no real mode, right? Real mode is real. They only have long mode and protected mode and long mode, right? Protected mode are all protected. You don't have real mode. So for some people, it's no longer something they can access hardware. That's what they are criticism. And finally, I think the final problem is that the 64-bit support is not good for XP. That's why you need Windows 7, right? Because the 64-bit support is not good. If Windows XP has very good 64-bit support, perhaps Windows 7 won't even be as successful. But we never know. So 64-bit support is not good, and that's it. But Windows XP is still very important, right? Still run on critical hardware thing, Pentagon thing, the military. Some people are saying even some nuclear military nuclear code, nuclear systems, nuclear bombs, atomic bombs, or hydrogen bombs were controlled by an XP system. So XP is still very important, despite the market share isn't as big as it was, but it's still very important, right? A lot of people still enjoy their operating system. So Windows XP is definitely one of the top two, but I think, yeah, it plays the role as playing a first consumer-based NT operating system. It merged the space, but yeah, but I don't think it's in the top one. I've said that since Windows 98, they have just a monopoly, right? Microsoft becomes a monopoly. a lot of the software just couldn't run on Windows. Now you might say it's just running on Windows on Linux, but Windows, the Linux community, particularly the Linus Torvalds, whatever, these people made excuses on supporting Windows. They don't have a good solution to supporting Windows. And I believe if we want to see a new version of operating system going to replace or be an alternative, no, it won't. Dude, no returning Rust. Okay. So, yeah, that's the Windows XP theory. Of course, another problem is malware, right? The malware issues. XP was just pirates, whatever malwares. There were a bunch of malwares back in XP period. You have a bunch of issues, security issues, like in XP period. So, yeah, that's the basic XP stuff. XP is still important, but it also has a lot of criticism. Just because it was not as criticized only after the release of Windows Vista, because Windows Vista was horrible. And people stopped complaining about it, right? So, but it's still kind of saying Windows XP is perfect. I'll comment on that. So number one, I would say Windows 10. No. Windows 10 is the most important operating system for Microsoft as a company. You probably not agree. I'm not saying you're gonna love the operating system for best, but Windows 10 is the most important one. Okay. Windows 10 is the most important version. Okay. Now, it was because nobody was wanting Microsoft anymore before Windows 10. Windows 8 wasn't very successful. Microsoft wouldn't even have any advantage over mobile market, right? They completely lost the tab mobile market. They have to have a success on Windows 10. So Windows 10 is the most important version of Windows for Microsoft. If they failed Windows 10, Microsoft might just no longer exist, right? Disagree with me on this. You can disagree with them. Windows 95 disagrees with me. I mean, 95% of people. You mean Windows 95 is the best? What do you mean disagree? I don't understand what you're saying. It won't worry anything Rust. But nobody was wanting Microsoft anymore, right? That's why for Microsoft as market perspective, they have to succeed as a Windows 10. Despite you could argue that Windows 10 is not good, it has privacy issues, it's not as good as 7 or XP. I agree with you. But from Microsoft market perspective, they have to succeed, right? That's what I'm saying is number one. I'm not saying they are not I would like to use it, always like to use it, but the problem is that for Microsoft, it's the most important one. And it is the most successful operating system. If you look at how many machines are running Windows 10, you have 2 billion whatever machines. That is not XP and Windows 7. Probably even combined could achieve that point. There was not as much market share as the market share Windows 10 has. And a lot of designs were very similar to XP. If you look at the similarity between 10 and XP, is probably they are more similar than XP to 7 or 10 to 7. They both don't have error, right? They don't have the step menu is also quite simpler, right? You have all the programs on here and programs here, right? So yeah. What about Windows 95? I mean, you probably see it's just you compare 3 of them, you probably think that XP has more similarity from start menu than 10 does than 295. But if you're 7, I don't know what 7 is actually. So, but it has a lot of problems, right? It does have a lot of problems, right? The first thing is they force upgrade, right? They force upgrade. They screwed up with Windows 7. A lot of people want to use Windows 7, just forced you to upgrade, right? And the upgrade was very slow, right? Just the upgrade probably take you 3 hours. You cannot get it work. Even a day, you probably cannot get the upgrade to work. The Windows. Oh, you like this sound? You love it? No, right? Sort of funny. Well, if you look at this, Microsoft was no longer wanted. I mean, that's the point why Windows 10 is the most important and successful one. It's because nobody wants Microsoft anymore if they failed, you know. Okay, I should go back to watch what you're joking about. What you're joking about? I don't know because I don't know what I did, right? So, and the privacy issues, right? Everything is not connected to internet. They force you to upgrade a bunch of crap like Candy Crush, right? If you don't know how to block them, you're probably not going to get it work. But Windows 10 is definitely, despite you sacrifice, you also gain a lot, right? Everything is internet based. You have this weather, whatever, software is quite good, right? It's not that bad, you know. So, right? But you can run this. And this classic game, right? That's another problem. There's no classic games in Windows 10 anymore, right? You have to install them by yourself. Right? So that's a huge problem. So yeah, that's a huge issue for Windows 10. They don't install any old classic games, no pinball, no Y-Mines, no 3D pinballs, right? You have to install them by yourself. But yeah. They give you Candy Crush. And I mean, you could give a lot of criticism to Windows 10, right? You could give it a lot of legitimate criticism, like not supporting hard solid disks, not solid disks, HDD anymore, right? The HDD runs very slow on 10. You don't have much of customization XP, the XP period. But you cannot deny the fact it's the most successful and important one. I've recently seen something people are saying. What's that? I don't know. But some people are saying Windows 10 is the new XP, right? It's a new XP because of the failure of Windows 11, right? So, right. Yeah, so Windows 10 and also the tablet support is important for 10. The launch has a lot of issues, like the issues with, like, I think another problem I mentioned is the UWP. UWP becomes a complete failure, right? People just no longer use UWP anymore. Even you run tablet, like I do with Surface, it's not running very well. The UWP doesn't run very well, but there are some UWPs that are still good, but they are out of maintained. Nobody is maintaining them. So at the end of 10, a lot of designs were no longer that mobile centric. It was go back to the old experience of desktop, but in the launch period, it was not as good as what we have today. And WSL, right? WSL, if you just use it as a feature, yeah, it's somewhat important feature, but it is not as important as people thought that WSL is that important. The Microsoft Edge, right? Yeah. So the old Edge is not a problem. Now they replace you with this one, right? You just pre-installed with Edge Chromium. So these issues are gradually fixed with 10. And I think the right model is that it should continue to maintain 10 for another 10 or 20 years. because there's no more market you need, right? You don't need that market for 10. You really don't. You just don't need that. There's no market, right? You can see even Windows 10 doesn't have error, right? Windows 10 doesn't have error because, yeah, they do take resources they cannot afford. Yeah, 2025, I know, but I think the correct strategy should be supporting Windows 10 for longer. They shouldn't release Windows 11, right, in general. Windows 11 is just complete failure. So is it most successful? Because from market share perspective, nobody could deny that, right? And a lot of designs just work similar to XP. But it doesn't as customized as XP. That's my point. The search experience on XP wasn't as good as 10 yet. The search experience is very good on Windows 10 than on Windows XP. But these two operating systems are important because for Microsoft, they do need an operating system to merge all their experience on tablet, on mobile phones, whatever. Windows 10 plays that role. And XP plays a role of merging the consumer-based and custom-based operating system. No DOS anymore. But, right. The UWP is clearly not good. So that's about the four best operating, probably most important operating system. Probably shouldn't say best. I should say for most important one, probably be better. Right. Because best is somewhat subjective, but for Microsoft perspective, if they failed Windows 10, they will probably fail. They probably no longer exist, right? They cannot actually compete with Google and Apple anymore. Unfortunately, since Windows 11, the things deteriorate again. You don't think Windows. I think that Microsoft was in the best of its status back in Windows 10 period, but since Windows 11, it's doing worse. It just go back to what it was, a terrible situation right now. Yes, it did. Yeah. So whether Windows 12 will be successful, I don't know, because they are saying they're gonna release in 2024. I think it's likely, but we don't know. And even Windows 12 is going to be a thing. I guess Windows 10 is going to be a huge thing, even not just in 2025, probably even 2027, something like that. Because it's since the disaster of Windows 11, Windows 10 is going to dominate for a very long time. You have React OS, but the driver support are huge issues. I think probably someone should make an operating system that supports Linux, but they have some thoughts on how to do with Windows. If I could make an operating system, I would definitely think about how to support Windows more. But I don't make operating system, right? You cannot actually stop supporting Windows. Windows is extremely important. Okay, Windows 10 has also another good feature is the gaming support is pretty good on 10, right? You have the game mode, they have some optimization for games. But yeah. Now 7 is, for a lot of people, it's probably the best, but they are not as important as XP and 10 in my opinion. So that's about the four most important operating system, right? Whatever best is most important is also subjective. It's not an objective thing. Yeah, if you have any comments, you go Discord and tell me, right? Because I don't think I can learn anything by making those streaming, do these videos. Yeah. But Windows 10 definitely has better traditional support. And right, I'm running basically Linux programs on Windows, running those compilers, running command. right? Running basically GNU Windows on Windows 10. Yeah, but also XP also works. XP also runs G++1, but it doesn't have good Unicode support. Yeah. Same Windows. So that's about it. Bye.